Hello and welcome to this week's weekly live warm-up. This week I'm going to be going over one of my favorite scale warm-ups actually, and it's a bit of a unique one, so I'm really looking forward to it. But first I just want to quickly remind anybody who's new to this that this is a live video that I do every week to go over one of my favorite warm-up exercises and then challenge you to implement it into your warm-up routine for the week and see what kind of results you might get from it. I also like to go a little bit in depth with why we do these things and sort of how to get the best results out of it, because I know lots of people who do warm-ups and don't actually get that much better from doing them. But if you do them properly, you can really see lots of results from them. So that's what I want to help you with here today. And in this one, we're going to be going over a technique exercise, which is a super simple 2-octave scale pattern, basically. But it's really unique because instead of playing 2-octave major scales or 2-octave minor, whether it's harmonic or melodic or natural, we're actually going to be doing the different modes of the scales. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick a key. So today I'm going to do F major, and if you're following along or happen to have perfect pitch, don't be alarmed. I am on my A clarinet, so it'll be F major for A clarinet. And what you do is you pick that key, but then instead of just playing a 2-octave or 3-octave F major scale, I'm actually going to start on the lowest note of the instrument, in this case the E, and then play 2 octaves in the key of F major, starting and ending on E, and then I'm going to go up a half step and do that on F, so that'll actually be the F major scale. Then I'm going to go up to the next step in the scale, which will be G, and then I'll play 2 octaves on G, but in the key of F major, so it'll be the G Dorian scale, and then I go up to A, and then B flat, and then C, so on and so forth, going up one next step in the scale and playing 2 octaves. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate this, and as I'm going through the keys, I'm going to sort of talk through some of the things that I'm thinking about. And I'm super excited because with my new fancy Soundbrenner core, I can actually do this with a metronome while still being live on my phone and not having to figure that out. And also, it's probably not too annoying for you because you can't hear it. It's maybe not too helpful for you because you can't hear it, but in any case, all technique scales or all technique exercises, aka scale exercises usually, are great to do with a metronome. So I'm so excited that I can do mine with my fancy flashing vibrating metronome. So here we go. I'm going to do the key of F major, but I'm playing 2 octaves starting on the low E. So you might notice two things. First of all, I'm going quite fast. You definitely don't have to go this fast. I'm going 120 on the metronome and playing 16th notes. Sometimes I like to do, especially when I'm in the harder keys like F sharp or C sharp, I like to start with just 8th notes to get my fingers oriented and then go to 16th notes. The other thing worth noting is that I repeated it twice, and that's actually part of a very important part of the exercise, is to repeat those 2 octaves maybe even just more than twice, because you can really get to know and get to feel if it's really comfortable or not. So I'm going to do that again, still on the same one, and I'm going to repeat it a few times until I'm really, really comfortable and confident with how my fingers are moving and everything feels really even and steady with a great sound, of course, as always. Good, so I feel pretty smooth and consistent and confident with that. I feel good about how my fingers are moving. I think the sound is pretty good, so I'm going to move up to the next step in the scale, which is F, so now we will be playing a 2-octave F major scale. And you can see it took me about 3 times or so to get really comfortable, and then maybe I did 1 or 2 more just to be really confident that I was comfortable, and did it a few times with it being comfortable. The first time there were a little bit of like compressed or rushed notes, and it took a few repetitions to get it really evened out. The other benefit of repeating it a few times is you may find yourself sort of as you repeat it, like maybe you can get it once, but you can't get it twice. And remember, that's the difference between a professional and an amateur, is that the professional can get consistent results and always get it to sound the way they want, whereas an amateur can maybe sound great once, maybe twice, but not every single performance and every single repetition is as good as they want. It's the consistency that really makes professionals rather than amateurs. Good. Let me go on and do just one more to demonstrate. So now we're up to G, which is the second scale degree. So it's going to sound a little funky. It's not going to be a major or a minor scale, but it's going to be really beneficial for our brain to consider this new pattern. And each time I was doing that, I was thinking about sort of something a little different to focus on. So obviously I wanted the sound to be good and the finger to be even and smooth and consistent as always. But the second time I felt like my turnaround down at the low notes was a little slow and hesitated a little bit. So the next time I made sure that I was even through that. I was maybe focusing more on the sound one time, more on the fingers another time. So you can see the power and the benefit of doing repetitions. And remember, whenever you're repeating anything, you're not doing it just to be like, oh, I was told I need to play this twice, so I played it twice. No, you do it as many times as it takes to get it to go really how you want it. Warm-ups aren't about making the warm-ups of the music sound good. It's about figuring out how to get the clarinet to work well. And that's a really important distinction. When you're working on music, you're working on getting the music to sound good for the sake of the music. When you're working on warm-ups, you're working on getting the clarinet playing to sound good so that when you do these things in music, you can make those sound good. And that's the final thing I want to say about this, and why I love this exercise so much, is that it helps us to find different ways and look at these scales differently. In music, whenever we come across any scale, really it's kind of rarely going to just start on the tonic or the root of the scale and be 1 octave or 2 octaves up to wherever you're going. Usually it's just a part of a scale or not starting on the tonic of the scale. So this is a really great way to start bridging your knowledge of the scales even more close to how normal music works. And once you're really familiar with all of the modes of a given key, then you're able to play those when you come across them in music. The final thing I want to say, actually 2 final things with this exercise. First of all, is how far you go up is entirely up to you. So I just did E, F, and G. And honestly, that might be a good start if you're more of a beginner or you don't have tons of time to warm up. That's plenty to get your sound going and get your fingers moving. Or if you want to extend this more and start working on some higher notes too, you can go up. Usually what I do is I go up to the tonic that gets me into the altissimo. So I would go up to starting on this F and then playing up to the altissimo F and doing 2 octaves there. It's totally up to you. You could go even higher than that. Maybe go to where you end on the high altissimo C. It's completely up to you and whatever you want to do and what will be the most beneficial for the areas that you need to work on for your playing. The other little bonus advanced tip for this, I believe this comes from Howard Klug's The Clarinet Doctor book. I'm not entirely sure, but in the book and in the original exercise, it's also encouraged to try to only move 1 finger when you get to the top note. So that's really easy when you're doing like E, D to E is just 1 finger, E to S, 1 finger, F to G is just 1 finger, and so on. But going from C to D, so if you're doing the 2 octaves on D and going up the scale and then going to D, that would have to move 4 fingers from C to D. So the challenge is to just do one finger. So in that case, you have to do sort of the trick trill fingerings, which the one that I do is I play C and then do the right trill key. You could also do the left G sharp key, depending on what sounds best on your instrument. You could also even do the open overblown G so that you just move that one finger. And that's a great sort of bonus, extra advanced thing to help you get comfortable and help you learn some of those fancy trick trill fingerings that come up in music every now and then. So I hope that was helpful. This is a super awesome exercise. I really encourage you to try it out in your playing. Do it with a metronome. Do these 2-octave modes and have fun figuring out how to move your fingers really fluidly in these less familiar modes and not just the major or minor keys. So happy practicing, and I'll see you next week for next week's live weekly warm-up.